Is your brand blending in when it should be standing out? Let's explore some unconventional techniques to strengthen your brand identity and make it truly unique. Hi, I'm Michael Pacheco, Fractional CMO for health and health adjacent technology companies. And today we're going to break away from the traditional methods of building brand identity, and we're going to explore some unique strategies that can help your brand stand out in a crowded market. So, in today's competitive landscape, it's not enough to just have a great product or a service. I know in tech companies, especially, we get a lot of left-brained folks in tech that have what I call the field of dreams effect, if you will. I'll call it that. They have what I call the field of dreams effect, where they think if you build it, they will come. And all I have to do is build this incredible service, this incredible solution, this incredible product, whatever it is, right? It's not enough, unfortunately. Your brand identity needs to resonate deeply with your audience, and it needs to distinguish you from the competition. No matter how unique you think you are, I promise you, it's just a fact of the matter. You're probably not that unique, and you need to set yourself apart from your competition. You need to give people a reason to remember you. So let's take a look at some unconventional approaches on how to do that. I've got 4 here. I want to talk about. Number 1 is going to be brand archetypes and storytelling. You want to use brand archetypes to create a deeper emotional connection with your audience. If you're not familiar with archetypes, they're essentially universal characters or themes and stories that resonate on subconscious levels with us, with humans, right? Think the hero, think the rebel, think the caregiver, stuff like that. By identifying and embodying an archetype that aligns with your brand's values and mission, you can create a compelling narrative from scratch that makes your brand more relatable and more memorable. And I say from scratch because it is possible to do that. If you have an origin story for your archetype, go with that. There's no reason to create something from scratch here if you have a powerful origin story. In fact, if you have a powerful origin story, I strongly encourage you to use that in your brand story, in your values, in your mission, along with whatever archetype suits your brand, your company as well. Moving on. Number 2, cultural alignment and social impact. You want to align your brand with cultural movements or social causes that matter to your audience. This is not about jumping on the latest trend or jumping someone else's train, I think is a common phrase, or at least was a few years ago. It's not about that. It's about finding a cause that genuinely reflects your brand's values. And you can think about this again in terms of the archetypes. What kind of values do they have? Think about that in terms of cultural movements or social causes. Brands that take a stand on social issues, you're going to turn people off. You're going to piss some people off. But here's the flip side of that same coin. You're going to forge stronger connections with customers who share those values, who believe in the same stuff that you believe in. It's going to make your brand identity more meaningful and more impactful to the people who should be mattering most to you anyway, because they're in alignment with what you believe. Hope that makes sense. Seems pretty straightforward. Numero tres, sambang, multi-sensory branding. You want to go beyond visual and verbal branding by incorporating other senses into your brand experience. This one's cool, right? Think about how you can use sound or scent or touch to create a more immersive brand identity. For example, a signature scent in physical stores might be something that you might see. For example, I can think of right now in the summertime when I go into a Muji in southern Japan, immediately I get in my memory, I associate that with the smell of germanium essential oils. It's a thing that they did when I was going to university in Japan. I don't know if they still do it. I haven't been there in 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 years. You could also think about a unique sound logo. For example, I think of NBC. If you watched TV in the 90s, maybe mid 2000s, it was bum bum, and that was the NBC jingle. Let's see what else. So even tactile experiences. So with that, think about if you're a product, if you're a medical device product, something like that, think about how you could incorporate something there, maybe into packaging for products that you've got, how that might reinforce your brand in a way that engages more multiple senses, right? And creates a lasting impression, something that people are like, this is different, this is weird, this is unique, this is fun. Finally, heritage branding. You want to leverage your brand's history and heritage, going back to the kind of this idea of storytelling, to create a strong sense of identity. Even if your brand is relatively new, you can create a founding story that highlights your origins, challenges that you've overcome, the journey that led you to where you are today, right? Your origin story. Heritage branding like that really appeals to customers' sense of nostalgia, their sense of tradition, which may not off the cuff, you're thinking like, I'm a tech company. I'm at the cutting edge. I don't want Luddites to associate with my brand. And I don't think that's necessarily it needs to be the case. Take someone like me, for example. I have a great appeal for the old and the new. I live off grid in the mountains. I grew up on a 700 acre grass seed farm in Oregon, and I love old tractors. I have an old 150-year-old hand plow out in my shed right now that I don't have any use for. I just think it's really cool. I've got some knives from my grandfather out at the farm. I've got all sorts of stuff. Heritage branding appeals to customers' sense of nostalgia and tradition. It creates deeper emotional connection and a sense of trust and reliability. So let's take a look at some brands that have successfully implemented some of these less conventional techniques. Harley Davidson, right? Harley Davidson archetype. Take a guess. What do you think the Harley Davidson archetype is? Hopefully it didn't take you too long. It's the rebel, right? Clearly, their archetype is the rebel. They've built a strong brand identity around that rebel archetype, right? It's America's biggest cosplay. This is how I see it. Their branding is all about freedom, individuality, defiance. All this stuff resonates deeply with their target audience. This consistent use of the rebel archetype has made Harley Davidson and their brand identity one of the most recognizable, certainly in the USA, if not the world. Number two is going to be Ben & Jerry's social impact alignment. Ben & Jerry's is a great example of a brand that has aligned with social causes in the past, and I believe they continue to as well. The company they've got a long history of advocating for social justice, environmental protections, LGBT rights, things like that. This alignment with cultural and social movements has strengthened their brand identity and deepened customer loyalty. Now, again, they probably pissed off some people on the conservative end of things, but for their audience, they've strengthened that brand identity. They've strengthened that loyalty. They've strengthened that connection. Number three, finally, we've got Starbucks multi-sensory experience. Starbucks creates a multi-sensory brand experience with what? It's coffee aroma. You walk into a Starbucks, it always smells amazing. There's Starbucks music. They've got this consistent kind of vibe with their music playlists. The tactile, the feel of their cups, the feel of their packaging. These sensory elements are carefully designed to create this kind of like warm and welcoming environment that really reinforces Starbucks brand identity as that, what do they call it? That third place, right, between home and work. In conclusion, strengthening your brand identity does not always have to follow traditional methods. There's new ways, there's fun ways, there's different ways to do that. Things like the brand archetypes, aligning with cultural movements, incorporating multi-sensory elements, and leveraging your brand's heritage. All of these can create unique and powerful brand identity that truly stands out. I want you to reflect now on your current brand identity. Are you tapping into deeper archetypes or cultural alignments that resonate with your audience? And I want to be clear here. I'm not saying that everybody should align themselves with some kind of social justice or some kind of cultural alignment or something like that. I, for example, tend not to, right? I'm pretty anti-DEI, but that's about it. I think that's pretty much about as much as I've aligned myself with anything. I think business is a meritocracy. And I think DEI is a pox on that whole idea. Business should just, you want A players. I don't care what color they are or what gender they are or what sex they are. I don't care about any of it. I just want the best people for the job. And if they align with my company's culture, it's a win and we're good to go. Point being, I'm not saying that you should always do this, but these are things to consider. Question number two, how can you incorporate sensory elements to make your brand experience more immersive? Finally, what stories from your brand's history can you leverage to strengthen that brand identity? So, guys, considering these questions, the idea here is for you to think about how you can potentially implement some of these ideas into your current marketing strategies. You want to use these questions to expose opportunities for improving your brand identity. If you're struggling with any of this, if you're ready to create your brand identity in a unique and impactful way, I'm here to help. Reach out to me and let's chat. I'll buy you 14 beers worth of my time at no cost to you. That's a half an hour on Zoom. I have nothing to sell you. My only goal is to provide you with actionable value that you can apply directly to your business. You can get at me on LinkedIn or by reaching out to me directly on my website. That's michaelpacheco.co. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and let me know what was valuable for you in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to this as a podcast, please give us a review on whatever platform it is that you're listening on. All of these things help us reach more businesses and help more businesses. And that's really our big goal here. In the meantime, I want to thank you for all that you do and for all the contributions that you're making in the world with your business. As ever, I'm Michael Pacheco. Until next time, cheers.